The Book of Revelation, Prophecies of Hell, Heaven, and the End Times. The Book of Revelation, the final book of the New Testament, stands as one of the most mysterious and compelling texts in Christian theology. It paints vivid and often terrifying pictures of the end of the world, the afterlife, and the final triumph of good over evil. Revelation, attributed to the Apostle John, has inspired fascination, fear, and hope for centuries as it describes in symbolic and apocalyptic language the ultimate destiny of humanity. For many believers, it is the key to understanding God's ultimate plan for the world, a roadmap to heaven for the faithful, and a dire warning for the wicked. Christian eschatology, which studies the theological interpretation of the end times, centers heavily on the prophecies found within Revelation. The allure of Revelation is in its dramatic depictions of heaven's grandeur, hell's torment, and the cosmic battle that culminates in the restoration of divine order. Its imagery, although cryptic, strikes a chord in the human soul as it speaks to our deepest fears and greatest hopes about what lies beyond the grave and the final judgment that will determine our eternal fate. In this exploration of Revelation, we'll delve into its harrowing prophecies of hell, the glorious promises of heaven, and the unsettling visions of the apocalypse. For many, Revelation isn't just an ancient text. It's a living prophecy that holds profound meaning in today's uncertain world. If you found this discussion insightful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below with your thoughts on Revelation's message for our time. 1. Heaven in the Book of Revelation, a philosophical reflection. In the Book of Revelation, heaven stands as a profound metaphysical ideal, symbolizing the ultimate telos of human existence, a realm of absolute peace, fulfillment, and an eternal communion with the divine. Within the apocalyptic vision of John the Apostle, heaven transcends mere eschatological hope. It embodies the culmination of a cosmic narrative, where the soul's journey through the tribulations of life finds its rest in an ontological union with the infinite. Heaven is not simply a future promise, but the final resolution of the dialectic between suffering and salvation, where all dualities dissolve in the fullness of divine presence. The Christian conception of heaven in Revelation is deeply rooted in the transformative notion of renewal, a metaphysical reordering of reality. Revelation 21 presents a vision of a new heaven and a new earth, a radical break from the corrupted and transient world. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Reverend 21:1. This passage is not merely descriptive, but symbolic of a metaphysical shift, where the sea, often interpreted as the source of chaos and evil, has been abolished, signifying the cessation of all cosmic disorder. It is a vision of the end of metaphysical fragmentation, the restoration of primal harmony, and the emergence of a reality wholly aligned with divine will. This new creation is not an abstract, disembodied ideal, but is articulated in terms deeply grounded in both the spiritual and the material. The descent of the New Jerusalem, the Holy City, is emblematic of the merging of the divine and the human, the eternal and the temporal. And I, John, saw the Holy City, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Reverend Isabel Jom. The bridal imagery evokes the Platonic ideal of form and beauty, where the soul, purified of all corruption, is finally wed to its ultimate source. The descent of this celestial city underscores a profound metaphysical truth. that heaven is not an inaccessible realm, but the realization of divine immanence within creation, a point where the eternal intersects with the finite, where divine order re-establishes itself within the fabric of reality. One of the most striking aspects of this vision is the rich symbolic description of the New Jerusalem, a city of gold and precious stones reflecting the Platonic and Aristotelian ideals of perfection and divine beauty. The city, described as pure gold, like unto clear glass, Revelation 21:18, is not merely a material opulence, but a manifestation of spiritual purity, a reflection of the divine form itself. In philosophical terms, this heavenly city represents the realization of the good, the highest metaphysical principle, free from the corruption of becoming. The transparency of the gold and the clarity of the stones suggest not only material splendor, but an existence that is transparent to the divine, where the distinction between essence and appearance is abolished, and all things are as they truly are in their perfection. In this celestial order, the metaphysical structure of the cosmos is redefined. The absence of the sun and moon, with God and the Lamb providing the eternal light, Revelation 21:23, signifies the subordination of the natural order to the divine. No longer bound by the cycles of temporal existence, this new creation operates according to divine intelligibility, where the light of reason and revelation shines unobstructed. The Lamb, representing Christ, is the embodiment of the divine Logos, the principle through which creation is redeemed and sustained. The absence of temporal light, sources like the sun and moon, reinforces the notion that heaven is a realm of pure actuality, free from the limitations of material contingency. Central to the philosophical understanding of heaven in Revelation is the concept of the abolition of suffering and the restoration of being. Revelation 21:4 offers a vision of the cessation of all pain and sorrow. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. This passage resonates with the philosophical themes of redemption and restoration, where all the privations of existence, the marks of sin and suffering, are undone. The act of wiping away tears reflects a divine compassion that transcends mere justice. It is a metaphysical restoration of the soul to its original state of wholeness, a return to the primordial good from which all things have fallen. Heaven, then, is the reversal of the fall, where humanity is restored to its true nature, free from the distortions introduced by sin. The abolition of death and suffering is not merely a cessation of physical pain, but the healing of the existential rupture between humanity and God. It is the final reconciliation of the finite with the infinite, where the soul, through faith and endurance, is elevated to its proper place in the order of being. In this sense, heaven is not merely a reward, but the ontological fulfillment of the human potential for divine likeness. However, this vision of heaven is not without its demands. The inheritance of this divine reality is contingent upon fidelity through tribulation, as emphasized in Revelation 7:14. These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. The blood of the Lamb symbolizes the purifying power of Christ's sacrifice, a metaphysical cleansing of the soul from the stain of sin. The trials and tribulations of life are thus seen as the crucible through which the soul is refined, purified, and prepared for its eternal union with the divine. The faithful are those who, through suffering and perseverance, align their wills with the divine Logos, and in so doing, transcend the limitations of the fallen world. In conclusion, the vision of heaven in the book of Revelation represents the final realization of the divine order within the cosmos. It is the metaphysical fulfillment of God's eternal promises, a place where all distinctions between the divine and the human, the eternal and the temporal, are harmonized in the perfect unity of being. For those who remain steadfast in faith, heaven is the ultimate reward, the consummation of all their hopes, and the final reconciliation with the source of all existence. In this divine realm, the soul finds its true rest, its ultimate home in the eternal presence of its Creator. 2. Hell and the Final Judgment. A philosophical meditation. Hell and the Final Judgment, as depicted in the Book of Revelation, present a formidable and profound reflection on the nature of justice, moral responsibility, and the ultimate consequences of human choices. If heaven is the epitome of divine reward, symbolizing the harmonious union with the Absolute, hell, by contrast, represents the metaphysical antithesis, the eternal alienation from the source of being and goodness. In the apocalyptic vision of Revelation, hell is not merely a place of physical torment, but a symbol of the ultimate consequence of a will that has irrevocably turned away from the divine order. At the heart of the Revelation's vision of hell lies the Great White Throne Judgment, a moment of cosmic significance where all creation is summoned to account for its deeds. This event is no arbitrary act of divine power, but the final unveiling of truth, the ultimate reckoning where the veil between appearance and reality is torn away, and all actions are judged in the light of absolute justice. Revelation 20:11 presents this scene with awe-inspiring imagery. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. The retreat of the cosmos before the face of the divine suggests the dissolution of all contingent realities in the presence of the eternal. Nothing can hide from this ultimate gaze, for everything that is laid bare in the light of pure truth. This judgment is the culmination of the metaphysical principle of causality. The deeds of every soul, small and great, are weighed and judged according to their moral and existential weight. Reverend 20 godin, 12 chwilin. The opening of the books in this passage symbolizes the divine order of memory and record, where no action, thought, or intent escapes the scrutiny of eternal justice. The divine judgment is not capricious or arbitrary, but grounded in the moral law woven into the fabric of existence. The lives people have lived, the choices they have made, all bear consequences that are now revealed in full. At the core of this momentous scene is the Book of Life, a metaphysical symbol of salvation and grace. It represents the divine knowledge of those who, through faith and the alignment of their will with the divine logos, have been preserved from the ultimate consequences of sin. To have one's name inscribed in the Book of Life is to partake in the divine order, to be saved from the abyss of non-being. Yet, for those whose names are absent from this book, their fate is sealed, and whosoever was not found written in the Book of Life was cast into the lake of fire. Reverend 20 godin, 15 chwilin. The lake of fire, a terrifying image of absolute destruction, signifies the metaphysical reality of separation from the divine source, a second and final death, beyond which there is no redemption. The image of the lake of fire is a stark representation of the consequences of a life lived in opposition to the divine will. It is described as burning with fire and brimstone, a place of unceasing torment. Reverend Exegesis. Yet, this fire is not merely physical, it symbolizes a deeper spiritual suffering, the anguish of a soul that has eternally severed itself from the goodness of God. The second death, in philosophical terms, is the death of the soul, a state of being where the potential for communion with the divine is forever lost. In this state, the soul is subjected to the torment of its own isolation, where all hope, peace, and joy are extinguished. Hell, as depicted in Revelation, is not merely a physical punishment, but a state of existential despair, where the soul, having rejected the grace and goodness of God, is condemned to an eternity of separation. Revelation 14:11 speaks of this unrelenting torment. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up for ever and ever, and they have no rest, day nor night. This image conveys the profound spiritual truth that separation from the divine source, the ground of all being, is the ultimate form of suffering. To be cut off from the presence of God is to be deprived of all that is good, true, and beautiful, a state of metaphysical death. The concept of the second death highlights the irreversible nature of this separation. Physical death may bring an end to earthly suffering, but the second death is the beginning of eternal alienation from the divine. This state of being is not imposed by an arbitrary deity, but is the natural consequence of a soul that has, through its own free will, chosen to reject the source of its own existence. The lake of fire, therefore, represents the self-inflicted consequence of a life lived in defiance of the divine order. The inclusion of various sins in Revelation 21:8. The fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars underscores the universality of this judgment. The range of transgressions listed suggests that hell is not reserved for the most egregious sinners, but is the fate of all who persist in a state of rebellion against God's grace. Even the fearful and unbelieving are included, indicating that spiritual cowardice and unbelief are themselves forms of turning away from the divine truth. This passage reveals the philosophical seriousness of moral and existential choices, where the failure to embrace truth and goodness carries eternal consequences. In Revelation's depiction, hell serves as a warning and a call to reflection. It represents the ultimate expression of moral responsibility, where the choices made in life are not merely temporal, but bear eternal significance. The contrast between heaven and hell creates a sense of existential urgency. The stakes are no less than eternal life or eternal death, communion with the divine or separation from it. There is no neutral ground, no space for indecision. One must choose between alignment with the divine will or alienation from it, between being and non-being. For many, the fear of hell acts as a powerful motivator to seek moral integrity and spiritual faithfulness. Revelation's vivid imagery is not meant merely to terrify, but to illuminate the gravity of human existence. The choices made in this life are of ultimate importance, for they shape the soul's eternal destiny. The finality of the Great White Throne Judgment underscores the irrevocable nature of these decisions, reminding us that once the judgment is rendered, there is no turning back. In conclusion, hell and the final judgment in the Book of Revelation present a profound philosophical meditation on the nature of justice, freedom, and the consequences of human choices. Hell is depicted not only as a place of physical torment, but as a state of spiritual alienation, where the soul is eternally separated from the source of all life and goodness. The Great White Throne Judgment reveals the ultimate accountability of every soul, judged according to its deeds, and those whose names are not found in the book of life are consigned to the second death in the lake of fire. This vision of hell is not merely a threat, but a sobering reminder of the seriousness of moral and spiritual life, where the stakes are eternal and the consequences of rejecting divine grace are irreversible. Third End Times Prophecies, a philosophical exegesis. The eschatological prophecies of the Book of Revelation evoke profound reflections on the nature of time, existence, and the ultimate fate of the cosmos. With its vivid symbols, cosmic conflict, and depiction of final judgment, Revelation offers a narrative of the struggle between good and evil, the emergence of the Antichrist, and the eventual triumph of divine order. For centuries, these enigmatic passages have sparked debates among theologians and philosophers alike, each seeking to unveil the deeper metaphysical meanings embedded within this apocalyptic vision. Yet, amidst the varying interpretations, the central message remains consistent. Evil will be vanquished, Christ will return, and the divine kingdom will manifest in its fullness. At the core of Revelation's eschatological narrative is the Battle of Armageddon, a climactic conflict symbolizing the ultimate confrontation between cosmic forces. This is not merely a war between human factions, but a metaphysical clash that transcends earthly struggles. John writes, "And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon." Revelation 16:16, KJV, setting the stage for the final showdown between the forces of light, led by Christ, and the forces of darkness, represented by Satan and his earthly emissaries. Armageddon has thus become synonymous with apocalyptic conflict, embodying the tension between divine order and chaos. The imagery surrounding Armageddon is rich in symbolic meaning. The gathering of the world's rulers by demonic spirits, Reverend 1614, reveals the scale of the conflict as a cosmic drama, involving not only terrestrial powers but spiritual forces that have long shaped human history. This battle represents more than a geopolitical struggle. It is a metaphysical event in which the ultimate fate of the cosmos is decided. The text underscores that this is not simply a narrative of military victory, but a philosophical exploration of the consequences of rebellion against divine order. The forces arrayed against Christ represent the culmination of human sin, pride, and idolatry, set in opposition to the divine will. Despite the apocalyptic horror associated with Armageddon, the prophecy is fundamentally a message of hope. The forces of evil, though vast and terrifying, are ultimately powerless before the divine Logos. Revelation assures its readers that Christ, the embodiment of divine truth and justice, will return to vanquish these forces. This moment is not one of suspense, but of inevitable triumph. Good will prevail over evil, and the divine order will be restored. The victory of Christ serves as a reminder that the metaphysical order of the universe, grounded in divine justice, cannot be overcome by the chaos of rebellion and sin. Central to the narrative of the end times is the figure of the Antichrist, or the beast, a symbol of the ultimate distortion of the divine image. The Antichrist is not merely a political figure, but a metaphysical embodiment of evil, a perversion of humanity's potential for communion with God. John's vision of the beast, with its grotesque features combining those of a leopard, bear, and lion. Reverend 13.2 conveys the monstrous nature of this figure. This symbolic creature represents a total inversion of the moral order, an entity whose power is rooted in deception and violence. The Antichrist's rebellion against God is characterized by profound blasphemy and idolatry. He leads humanity astray by offering a counterfeit form of salvation, luring people away from the true source of life. His reign is marked by false worship and allegiance to a corrupted order. The mark of the beast, symbolized by the number 666, signifies humanity's willing participation in this rebellion. Revenur 13 மணி 17 நிமிடம். This mark is more than a physical symbol. It represents the spiritual alignment with the forces of darkness, a rejection of the divine logos in favor of the false promises of the Antichrist. Philosophically, it is the culmination of the human will's turn away from the good and toward the chaotic forces of self-destruction. Despite the apparent power and dominance of the Antichrist, Revelation emphasizes the temporality of his reign. His rise to power is but a prelude to his inevitable downfall, as Christ returns in glory to confront him. In Revelation 19, Christ is depicted as the ultimate sovereign, riding on a white horse, the symbol of victory and purity. And I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. Reverend 19 மணி 11 நிமிடம். This image is rich with philosophical meaning, portraying Christ not as a passive redeemer, but as an active agent of justice, whose word is the very sword that strikes down evil. Revelation 19 மணி 15 நிமிடம். This is not mere conquest. It is the restoration of divine order and the establishment of eternal justice. The defeat of the Antichrist and his forces is swift and decisive. The beast, along with the false prophet, is cast into the lake of fire, a symbolic space of eternal punishment and metaphysical separation from God. Revelation 19 மணி 20 நிமிடம். The lake of fire represents the final state of alienation from the divine, a place of utter isolation and despair, where the possibility of reconciliation is forever lost. It is the ultimate consequence of rebellion, where beings who have definitively rejected the divine order are left to endure the reality of their own estrangement. Following the defeat of the Antichrist, Satan himself faces final judgment. Revelation 20:10 describes Satan's consignment to the lake of fire, marking the end of his influence over creation. This event is of profound significance in the Christian philosophical narrative, symbolizing the total eradication of evil and the restoration of cosmic harmony. With Satan's defeat, the last vestiges of disorder are erased, and the universe is once again aligned with the divine will. This moment signifies the victory of the good over the forces of chaos, and the beginning of a new era of peace. The final chapters of Revelation present a vision of a new heaven and a new earth, a reality free from the corrupting influence of sin and death. Revelation 21:4 offers a vision of this restored order. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. This is the culmination of the eschatological narrative, where the metaphysical wounds of existence are healed, and humanity is restored to its intended state of communion with the divine. The end times prophecies of the book of Revelation, while filled with terrifying and dramatic imagery, ultimately point toward the hope of redemption and the triumph of divine justice. They serve as a reminder that, despite the chaos and suffering of the present world, the cosmic order is moving toward its fulfillment in the divine plan. Evil, no matter how powerful it may appear, is destined to fail. The second coming of Christ, the defeat of the Antichrist, and the final judgment of Satan all affirm the ultimate sovereignty of God and the assurance that His kingdom will prevail. For Christians, these prophecies offer not only a vision of the future, but a profound philosophical affirmation of the ultimate victory of the good.